Well, when Dale was growing up, he was just full on. He's always been a very, very ambitious young man, and so his day was full of carrying out all these creative and imaginative ideas that he had in his head.
As a kid, I was always doing things to challenge myself, and growing up in the country on a fruit property, we had tractors, we had motorbikes, we had equipment, and welders and angle grinders and oxy torches and everything that I could do to challenge myself and learn how to do something and get good at it. Yeah.
There was one speed for Dale, and that was pretty much flat out. So, and that was demonstrated in his pursuit of all kinds of sports, whether it be snowboarding, water skiing, cricket, athletics. Very, very skilled in the area of athletics, and so, as I said, he was extremely active. Being probably 3 years of age, as young as he would know what an aircraft was. He had this desire to fly. Planes just consumed him, whether it be magazines or even jigsaw puzzles with planes, and anything at all that contained planes just would take over his attention.
When I was in the army, I was always looking at earning more money to get my pilot's license fully finished, and there's a lot of training that you need to do. So I was very focused. I was a young fella that knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life, and I could see myself up the front of a 747 flying around the world, and I knew I could do that, and everyone around me knew where I was going with my life, and they knew that I was Dale Elliott and I was a pilot. I met my wife on the 15th of December 1994 at 11:30 p.m. at Heaven nightclub in Adelaide in the city.
He sort of came up to me and he was groping me, and I said to my friend, "Oh, I've got to get out of here."
And I saw this beautiful girl across the nightclub floor, and it was like the crowd parted so I could see her there with a lovely long evening gown on.
So I hid in the toilets, and he still didn't go away because he followed me. And I went, "Oh, great." So I went out, and he said, "Can I buy a drink?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, buy me a drink."
She was there with all her friends dancing, and she was very much overdressed for a Thursday night.
And I went, "Oh, I can get a free drink, that's all right." And then went outside because I'd had enough, and he followed me outside, and I thought, oh, he wanted my phone number. So I thought, oh, I know a phone number. So I wrote down my girlfriend's phone number, and I didn't tell her I did that.
And that's when I saw her, and I said to a mate of mine, I said, "I'm going to marry that girl." Look, I hadn't even spoken to her, this was just from afar.
5 seconds later, my sister walked around the corner, and she says, "Oh, hi Erica, how are you?" And I said, "Oh, good." And I went, "Oh, I'm in trouble now." And Dale said to her, "Oh, is this your phone number?" Because we all lived at home. And she said, "No." And he went, "Oh." So my sister, who was drunk, proceeded to give him our telephone number.
I just knew that I just had that connection with her soul, even though she'd never even saw me. I didn't care what she wanted. I saw what I wanted and I went after it, and I got it. We got married in 1997. I proposed to her less than 6 months after meeting her.
It's always an emotional experience having your children marry, and it's a very exciting time. You as parents, you're entering into a new stage of the family dynamics. You're allowing another person to enter into your family, and that takes adjustments for them and for us, and we're very happy for them. She arrived with a horse and carriage, and it was just beautiful, and it was just a true reflection of both of them, the way the whole ceremony was conducted. They had the photos down at the beach on Sunset, which was just truly fitting.
Since getting married, we've grown a lot together, and it's been fantastic. The institution of marriage, it's a fantastic thing. Erica and I have certainly learned a lot about what two people can achieve and what it means to travel through life with a teammate and a partner and your best friend.
She really supported him 100% in his goal to complete his aircraft maintenance, his licensed aircraft maintenance engineer's training, and also his commercial pilot's license.
So our big plan was to him to get his flying so he could get into an airline, and once he got into an airline we're going to, you know, build the big house, have the big family, travel a lot, and that's what we were planning to do.
We were preparing for a second Christmas lunch on Boxing Day 2002, and Dale went for a short ride on his cousin's motorbike, and his two cousins took he and Erica's new Astra convertible for a ride.
I didn't even know he'd gone on the motorbike, and I would have said no because I was a bit annoyed that his brothers had taken the car, because it was a brand new car, and I'm all about insurance and stuff like that, and I didn't want anyone to drive the car because I'm thinking, oh, it's my car, it's going to have an accident because they're only young and I'm going to have to pay all this money if they have an accident. And I would have said, no, Dale, don't get on the motorbike because you know how dangerous they are. And like, because my sister's boyfriend had an accident on his motorbike, and you know, Dale's had a few near misses with, not through any fault of his own, but you know, they are pretty scary items and you don't have much around you. But
He was riding along the road and a dog ran out in front of him, and he avoided the dog but came off the bike and sustained a critical injury to his spine, which has left him a complete paraplegic.
When I fell off the motorbike, I went through the sky and I hit the ground, and I had all the dirt and the grass and the dust come past as I stopped, and there I am looking up at this orange tree.
Ow.
To arrive at the scene and to see your son lying on the ground and he's saying, I can't feel my legs, was just the most shocking experience, that you just go into shock and absolute disbelief. And he was asking his dad to feel down his legs, and he was feeling down his legs, and Dale was saying, I can't feel that, Dad, I can't feel that. And even today, it's still very hard for me to recall that memory, because it's just something you wouldn't wish upon anyone.
yeah, and then we went up to the hospital with his parents, and because he went in the ambulance, and they said, oh, we have to get the chopper down. And then I couldn't go in the chopper, so basically his brother and I had a 2.5 hour drive to Adelaide to see him, and that was pretty hard too, because you know, I had to look after his brother and myself to try and drive to Adelaide. That was really hard.
And we met him in the emergency department, and were briefed by the doctor who was going to operate on him to stabilise his spine with a steel rod. I think what is so vivid in my mind, that which was second to the actual shock of seeing him lying on the ground not being able to move his legs, was to see a document, a medical record which had complete paraplegic written across the whole page. No one else in the family realised the extent of the injury, and they certainly did not know that the diagnosis was complete paraplegic. And so I kept that to myself for 2 or 3 days, until the staff in the spinal injuries unit in the hospital had a family meeting, and I found that very difficult. We knew that there was that really to have him walking on his own again was going to be very, very slim, and so at that point we realised that our main role as a family was to make his life and the life of Erica as supportive as we could possibly make it.
coming home to an empty house was hard. You know, we'd always, you know, he'd come home from work, we'd do stuff, and then for 2 months he wasn't there, and I'd come home to a quiet house and there was no one there, and yeah, that was hard. Yeah, your whole routine was just shattered, because I wouldn't get home till 10:30 anyway, because I'd finish work at 5:30, then I'd be either at hospital when he was in hospital, or then I'd be out at Hampstead when he went to Hampstead, so I wouldn't get home till 10:30. So yeah, it was hard, and then you go to bed and yeah, he wouldn't be there and you'd miss him. Yeah, and you go, why can't he be home? So I used to take the dog out with me to Hampstead, because I'd let pets into the room with him, so that was a big help. So I thought, well, if he can't come home, maybe I can bring a bit of home to him to cheer him up.
He'd been home on a home visit with Erica, and I was driving him back to the rehab centre, and it was about 10 o'clock at night, and he looked down. We were just talking about how the strength that when he spent his time in the army, how he said to me about some of his experiences, and then he was sitting in the front seat of the car, and I can still see that he looked down at his feet and he said, "Mum, I just want to feel my toes one more time. I just want to feel my toes." And he was just pleading, and I said, and he just started to cry, and he just cried with such a huge sense of loss. So I pulled the car over, and I didn't know what to do, because there were no words that I could say. So I got the box of tissues from the back seat, gave him the box of tissues and grabbed a handful for myself, and I sat there and we just both cried. And we just cried and cried. And then when we finished crying, he said, "Mum, they never broke my spirit in the army," and he said, "and a broken back is not going to break me now." And I said, "You're right, Dale, it's not." And it hasn't.
So my biggest drive at that point was my relationship with my wife, absolutely. It was something that I cherished a lot, and it was something that I could turn on very quickly. So if I was having a bad time, I'd say, "Hey, how's Erica going to feel if I'm having a bad time and she comes in to see me right now?" "Okay, we'll get in a happy place, Dale, come on, think about it." So that was my biggest drive.
To have a mental breakdown was pretty hard. I was always happy-go-lucky, and to have that, and it takes a while to get over it. You've still got things in the back of your mind that you don't want to think about, that you do, which upsets you, and yeah, so that's pretty hard to deal with. So you're always reminded of the accident. It doesn't go away because you see Dale, and Dale is the accident.
He had to work very, very hard, and he didn't want to stay in hospital any longer than absolutely necessary. So he set the challenge. He set a huge challenge for himself and he would practice and practice, and I'd go out to the rehab centre, and he'd be saying, "Mum, I've got to do this, and I said, we can just have a little rest." No, there was no time for resting. He had it in his mind what he needed to do, and he had a goal to get out of the hospital as soon as he could, and that was part of the requirement in his mind. Well, he made it his goal that before he left the rehabilitation centre, he had to have his licence. Now, for many people, they're discharged and they don't actually have their licence. So I can remember taking him to the grounds, and an assessment officer coming along, and he said to Dale, "Well, this is going to take all day." And Dale said, "What? I'm only learning to drive with hand controls." And he said, "Yes, but it will take you at least a day, could take you 2 or 3 days." And Dale looked at me, and I thought, well, this man doesn't know Dale.
The driving instructor was absolutely blown away, because I said, "All right, we're ready to go, no problem." And off I went. And I drove out into to the road, and I drove down the road, come to the first set of lights, and he's like, "Now, you need to do this. This is, push forward to stop," and all that. I know how to do it. It's all fine, tick tock, tick tock. Down we went. Now I think we meant to have like 4 or 5 lessons, and we just kept driving and driving and driving, and eventually we came back. And George, the instructor, said to me, "Dale, you know what? We're meant to do this and this and this and this and this." And when the last thing he was doing, told me to do a reverse park, I thought, this is like getting my P plates. Hey, I think I've knocked this thing off. And he said, you're done, mate. I'm going to give you a licence straight away. Within
about 3 hours, he had met the requirements to get his licence, and then I was ordered to get in the car. Come on, Mum, down to the motor registration. Down we went, got the papers processed, and that was the way he approached everything. Once he was discharged from hospital, it was doing whatever he could to get his life back to being as normal as it had been before the accident, as quickly as he could make it. And I think he did that very much for Erica, and he did it very much for his family.
He left home the 24th of December and didn't get home until March. So everything was, you know, hard for him to adjust, and I had to hide his pilot's uniform so he didn't get upset. He went out to the shed where all his tools were that he couldn't use, and he got upset, and it was frustrating. He got angry because he couldn't do a lot of things. Like, he goes, oh, I can't do anything around the house, I can't even change a light globe for you, and things like that.
When he arrived home after being discharged, and he wheeled himself into his office, it was like it was a time warp. There was nothing, everything, all of his pilot materials and so on was still there, the same as they were the 2 days before his accident, and he just couldn't get his head around the fact that this office set up with all planes and everything that was such an important part of his world was not going to be a part of his career anymore. It was hugely devastating.
Yeah, because I didn't know how we'd, you know, cope being that the planes were out there and he couldn't get in them anymore, like how we'd feel, like a bit upset, you know, these pilots coming in and say, oh, you know, flew this plane, and yeah, and I didn't know how he'd feel.
And I don't think we can ever really understand the depth of that loss. I know he said to me that he cried from a place in his soul that he never thought he could cry from, and I think, you know, it's something that you just have to learn to live with, and to move on, and to be as supportive and as positive as you possibly can, because he doesn't see himself as a victim. He sees himself as someone who has been given this challenge, and he will move on and get as much out of his life as he possibly can.
I knew we'd get there in time. I knew it would be hard. You sort of have to take one day at a time to see how things go, because you never know what's going to happen, whether he's going to get sicker or anything like that as well. You've got to think about stuff like that. But we went along and just did things, and I wrote out a list of stuff that we could still do as a couple, you know, go out and things like that. So, you know, we could still go out to tea and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Dale's humour, without a doubt, has been a big part of who Dale is, and that certainly wasn't lost after his accident. In fact, I think it very much came to the fore, because in the very deepest and saddest moments of his grief, he was always able to find something humorous.
My comedy has been a very dear part of my soul, and one that has been a great mate for me and a great companion. It's been there in the darkest parts of my life. My sense of humour has come through like a knight in shining armour on horseback, waving its big funny sword and clonking everyone on the funny bone.
He's very witty. But it's based on, his comedy is based on everyday things. Like, he's got a great joke about the things he has in his garden shed that are absolutely useless to him, like his lawnmower and a leaf blower.
A big green wheelbarrow. That hasn't got a scratch on it. But it's there nonetheless. Actually, if I ever got thrown in prison for, you know, speeding down the motorway or something, they wouldn't need to put me in prison. They just need to put me in the middle of a tennis court with 12 wheelbarrows around me. And I'm like, well, I can't get out.
So comedy for me, and being able to utilise my comedy after my accident, was very important. One, from a survivability side of things. Two, from showing other people I'm coping, lifting other people up and empowering them to not be disappointed and depressed for me.
He always likes to be the life of the party, so he always comes out with jokes and all that. We went away on a cruise in about 1999. It was a belated honeymoon, and they had the last night there was a big entertainment night where passengers could do their stuff, and he got there and did his comedy, and everyone laughed because he had a crowd of 300, so and no one could go anywhere because we were on a cruise. So yeah, he's always done that, and every time we go out he's always a joker and likes to be on stage and make people laugh. So yeah.
If I could go back to when I was 19, 20, I would have been a dad instantly, because I just loved kids. And I thought, if there's no one in the world that's better at nurturing a child and teaching them a fantastic outlook on life, it would be me.
When Dale was at the rehabilitation hospital, we were all of the understanding in the family that he and Erica would not be able to have their own biological children. That, of course, was not correct information, but we did not know that for 5.5 years.
I said to Dale, basically, I didn't want to have a family because I thought how hard it would be to have a child, have him in a wheelchair and then have a child. It would be very difficult. So yeah, for the first 3 years I said, no, I don't want to have a kid. I don't want to have a child and bring it up in the world and do it all myself, because I didn't know how he would cope with stuff as well, so that was hard. But as time went on, he was very adaptable, and I thought, oh, maybe he could be a good dad, and I thought, oh well, we'll give it a go. Because
of my injury, Erica and I needed to go through an IVF program, and Erica had like 80 needles in a year, you know, and a lot of hormone replacement therapy and everything. And Erica hasn't done anything wrong. She's fine. She hasn't got any injuries. So for her it was a big emotional roller coaster. And when we found out that it had worked and she was pregnant, it was absolutely amazing. And going through watching her tummy get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and knowing that there was a little person in there, it was absolutely amazing, because for me it was like, oh, it's getting closer and closer for me being able to coach and train and just have this fantastic little member of society out there.
He's going to be coming into a family that he will be brought up with, perhaps a different appreciation of what it's like to have a dad in a wheelchair, and I know that he's going to be a very special little man in their lives, and certainly, and already is in our family. He's just a little darling.
You know, being a new father, and especially what I was really worried about was the challenges of me being a dad and being in a wheelchair. And you think about, okay, first day of school, if I take him to school for the first day, what are the other kids going to say? Because kids are cruel, man. I mean, they tell her how it is. Hey, your dad's in a wheelchair. But I just know that Jaden will turn around and say, yeah, he is. And do you know what it's like for people in a wheelchair? I know he'll go instantly into seeing himself as someone that can teach other people. When I work with youth and students and children and teenagers and young people, all of those people are different. They're all in a certain age demographic, but they're all in such a different place of their life. And growing up as a child, you can remember that what you felt about something 1 month is vastly different to the next month, and then to the next year, and then the year after that. And before you know it, you've got yourself a mortgage and a family of your own, and you're wondering where your life's gone. What I love doing with kids is having them live in the moment and understand exactly where they are, in their own mind, in their own universe, where their focus is, where their biggest fear is at that point in time, and their biggest passion is. And finding that gap.
He has had opportunities of being able to speak to secondary school students, and they just love listening to his ideas and his combination of comedy and his experiences, and it goes down very well. Goes down very well with the students.
When I realised that I had this urge that wasn't being fulfilled, my focus changed. I didn't know what it was that I had to do, but I just put it out there to the universe and say, right, I'm ready, let me know what it is you need me to do. What is the best thing for me to do? And going from operating aeroplanes and managing aeroplanes to then managing people's trauma via an online website, massive jump.
It's a natural human need to want to help people in times of trauma or crisis or any overwhelming situation. So we know that that natural human need in many cases is not managed that well. That there are a lot of people out there that want to be able to help other people but don't know how to. And so I'm thinking of your website is a mechanism to manage the communication and to be able to bring in practical and emotional support that we know people want to be able to offer, and manage that in a way that makes a difference in other people's lives, gives them a chance to pick themselves up and better cope.
Because I didn't want to answer the phone, I didn't want to speak to everyone, because people say, how are you going? You just go, oh, I just don't want to talk to you because I'll break down and cry, and I didn't want to do that in front of everyone. And for someone to keep everyone informed would have been great for me, because then I didn't have to keep repeating the story over and over again, and it upset you every time you had to tell the story. So it would have been good just to have it up on the website and people could read what was going on and keep up to date. So no, it would have been fantastic and would have made my life a lot easier.
Our next nominee is Dale Elliott for Community Spirit and Role Model.
The Unsung Hero award that I got, I didn't even know that I'd been nominated. I just got a letter in the mail saying that that's it, you're going to be awarded this on this night. And I went, oh, well, it was fantastic, because you look around and, oh, it was like the work that you put in, the time where no one was around, and that little voice said, no, you've done enough. But you've gone, no, I haven't, shut up, and you've gone on. And you didn't think that anyone ever knew that you had, or didn't think that it mattered. You get an award like that, and yeah, it's very humbling.
We were really proud of him, and we were thrilled because he's very selfless in what he does for people, and I think sometimes he denies himself of his own personal time to do things for himself. He's very generous of doing things for a lot of other people.
And for me, it meant a lot, because now whenever my little voice does say you've done enough, it's going to say, somebody is watching. So put in that little bit of extra effort. Now is when it's important.
Dale is an inspiration to anyone. He really is, but in particular he is an inspiration to people with disabilities, because he hasn't accepted the fact that he is disabled. All he has accepted is that he can't walk. So he portrays to others that there are areas of your life that you can be just as successful, just as high achieving as able-bodied people. And through his public speaking, he aims to be able to get that message across to more of the groups and organisations who cater for people with disabilities, in saying you can have a vibrant, happy, fulfilling life with whatever disability you have. Because even though the disability may feel a big part of your life, it doesn't need to feel a big part of your mind.